Look up at your ceiling. If you have a brown or yellow stain, even a small one, even one that has been there for years without growing, that stain is not old damage. It is a water map. It shows you exactly where moisture has been accumulating in your ceiling structure. And in the majority of cases, it is still accumulating right now. The stain is not the problem. The stain is the symptom. The problem is somewhere above it, in the attic, in the roof structure, or in a plumbing line, and it is almost never directly above the stain you can see. Before you call a roofer, before you pay $800 for someone to climb on your roof and guess, there is a free diagnostic that finds the source in 20 minutes. A flashlight, your attic, and the knowledge of how water moves through a roof structure. 90% of ceiling stain sources are identifiable from the attic without touching the roof. The roofer charges $800 to do what this video teaches you to do for free. Go look at your ceiling stain right now. How big is it? Is the center darker than the edges? Drop it in the comments. I'll tell you what that pattern means before you watch another minute. Welcome to Dr. Cole Survival. This is where we dig up what the industry buried. Hit subscribe and ring the bell. Here is the test. 20 minutes, one flashlight. Access your attic. Take a bright flashlight, not your phone light. A headlamp is better because it frees both hands. Orient yourself directly above the ceiling stain. You know the stain location from below. Translate that to the attic floor position by measuring from the nearest wall or by looking for insulation that appears darker or compressed compared to the surrounding area. Now look at the roof deck above that location. You are looking for three things. First, dark staining on the underside of the roof deck boards. Water that is infiltrated through the roof leaves a brown or gray stain on the deck surface as it dries. The stain on the deck will be larger than the ceiling stain below it. Water spreads as it moves through insulation and drywall. Second, wet or compressed insulation. Insulation that has absorbed water feels denser, heavier, and looks darker than dry insulation. Press the insulation gently near the stain location. Wet insulation compresses without springing back. Third, the water trail. Here is the critical part that roofers know and homeowners do not. Water entering the roof at the actual infiltration point does not fall straight down. It runs along the underside of the roof deck boards, following the slope until it reaches a rafter, a nail, a pipe penetration, or any obstacle that interrupts the flow. At that obstacle, it drips. The ceiling stain is where the drip lands, which can be 2, 4, even 8 feet horizontally from the actual entry point. Follow the stain pattern on the deck uphill toward the ridge to find the true source. Look for the highest point of staining on the deck surface, the wettest insulation, or the visible entry point where light enters or where the deck surface shows active moisture. Mark the location with chalk before leaving the attic. That mark is where the exterior repair needs to happen. This diagnostic is free. It takes 20 minutes. A roofing contractor who climbs onto the roof without first performing this attic inspection is guessing at the source from the wrong direction. Go back to ancient Egypt. Egyptian builders constructing the flat-roofed mud brick structures of the Nile Valley around 2000 BC understood a fundamental principle of water infiltration diagnosis. Water enters at one point and appears at another. The engineers who maintained the royal palace complexes at Amarna, the capital city of Pharaoh Akhenaten, built and occupied from approximately 1346 to 1332 BC, documented maintenance protocols and administrative papyri that included tracking the movement of roof moisture from entry point to appearance point on interior ceiling surfaces. The Amarna Palace maintenance records, partially preserved in fragments at the Berlin and Cairo museums, describe a diagnostic process in which maintenance workers access the roof structure from above following rain events to identify the moisture entry points separate from and uphill of the interior ceiling damage those entry points produced. The workers marked entry points with clay markers for subsequent repair, diagnosed from above downhill to uphill before repairing. In 1332 BC, the attic flashlight inspection that finds your ceiling stain source in 20 minutes is the residential implementation of a diagnostic protocol that Egyptian palace maintenance engineers were applying 3,300 years ago. Roman engineers maintaining the elaborate vaulted roof structures of the Pantheon, completed in 125 AD, used a similar protocol, accessing the roof structure from above to trace moisture infiltration pathways from their exterior entry points to their interior manifestation points before authorizing any repair work, tracing the water path before touching the surface every time. Here is the mechanism and why the ceiling stain is almost never directly below the leak, and why this knowledge makes the attic inspection the only diagnostic that reliably finds the source. Water infiltrating through a roof surface, through a failed shingle seam, a cracked pipe boot, a deteriorated valley seal, or any of the failure modes documented in previous premises, contacts the underside of the roof deck immediately. The roof deck is not horizontal, it is sloped. Water on the underside of the deck runs downhill along the wood grain. The speed of movement depends on the volume of infiltration. Heavy infiltration, a large gap or failed flashing during a major storm, moves quickly and produces a ceiling stain close to the entry point. Light infiltration, a hairline crack, a pinhole in a pipe boot, a slow seam separation, moves slowly, traveling further along the deck before accumulating enough volume to drip. The most damaging infiltration is the lightest. A slow drip that travels 6 feet along the deck before dropping onto the ceiling drywall below has been infiltrating for a long time before enough volume accumulated to produce a visible stain. By the time you see the stain, the deck at the true entry point, 6 feet uphill, has been wet through dozens of rain events. A 2017 study from the Building Performance Institute analyzed the relationship between ceiling stain location and actual roof infiltration entry point in 80 residential leak investigations. In 71% of cases, the entry point was more than 2 feet horizontally from the ceiling stain center. In 34% of cases, the entry point was more than 5 feet from the stain. The average horizontal distance between stain and entry point, 3.8 feet. 3.8 feet. The roofer who applies sealant at the roof location directly above the ceiling stain is addressing the wrong point in 71% of cases. The repair fails. The stain returns. The second service call is scheduled. The attic flashlight inspection finds the true entry point, the highest point of deck staining. In 20 minutes for free, the contractor charges $800 to apply the wrong repair in the wrong location. Here is exactly what you do after the attic inspection identifies the source location. The chalk mark in the attic tells you the horizontal position of the entry point on the roof. To translate that to the exterior roof surface, you need the distance from the mark to the nearest gable wall or ridge. Measure from the chalk mark to the nearest reference point in the attic, then replicate that measurement on the exterior roof surface from the same reference point. Once you are at the exterior location, look for the failure indicators documented in previous permisses. You are now inspecting a specific 2 to 3 foot zone rather than the entire roof. Look for lifted shingle edges at a valley, Permissa 19. Cracked or missing sealant at a flashing edge, Permissa 8. Cracked or degraded pipe boot rubber, Permissa 21. Lifted shingle edge near the ridge may indicate nail pop where a fastener has backed out and lifted the overlying shingle. Open seam between shingles, a location where 2 shingle courses have separated at the horizontal overlap joint. Each of these has a specific repair documented in previous permissas. The attic inspection narrows the search to a specific zone. The zone inspection identifies the specific failure mode. The failure mode determines the specific repair. The repair costs $6 to $15 in material. The nail pop, a raised nail head that has lifted the overlying shingle, is worth addressing specifically because it is the one failure mode not covered in previous permisses. A nail that is backed out of the deck presses up against the overlying shingle from below, creating a small tent that allows water to enter around the nail shaft. Fix. Press the nail back into the deck. With a hammer, apply a dab of butyl rubber sealant over the nail head and press the shingle back flat. Cost, $0 in material if butyl sealant is already on hand from previous repairs. A homeowner in Richmond, Virginia documented this diagnostic protocol on a ceiling stain that had appeared in the master bedroom in 2021. A roofing contractor had visited, climbed to the roof directly above the stain, found no obvious failure, and quoted $650 for preventive flashing maintenance in the area. The homeowner accessed the attic with a flashlight, traced the deck staining uphill from above the ceiling stain location, and found the true entry point 5 feet toward the ridge, a nail pop under a shingle that was creating a small water entry tent. The repair required pressing the nail and applying 50 cents worth of Beal sealant. Total cost, 50 cents in material and 45 minutes, including the attic inspection. The contractor's proposed $650 preventive flashing maintenance was to be applied at the wrong location. The stain would have returned. Pause here. If you have a ceiling stain and you haven't done the attic inspection, the contractor you call is operating without the most important diagnostic information available. They are guessing from the wrong direction, like this video if you are going into your attic this weekend. Comment with the size of your stain and whether it is round or has a tail. The shape tells me which direction the water was traveling before it dropped. Real limitation. The attic inspection identifies the source of infiltration through the roof deck or from above the ceiling drywall. It does not diagnose ceiling stains caused by plumbing leaks above the ceiling, a pipe, a toilet wax ring on the floor above, or a supply line connection inside the wall. If the attic inspection shows no staining on the deck above the ceiling stain location, the source is likely plumbing rather than roofing. The diagnostic for plumbing source stains is different. Turn off water to the house, wait 30 minutes, and check whether the stain is wet or dry. If the stain dries without new moisture appearing after water shutoff, the source is plumbing, not roof infiltration. That distinction costs $0 to make and sends you to the right contractor the first time, roof source or plumbing source. The 2 free tests distinguish them before you spend $800 on the wrong diagnosis. Egyptian palace maintenance engineers were tracing roof moisture entry points from above before authorizing interior ceiling repairs in 1332 BC. Roman engineers were mapping infiltration pathways from their roof entry points to their interior appearance points in 125 AD before touching the Pantheon's roof surface. A Richmond homeowner found the true entry point of a ceiling stain 5 feet from where a contractor had proposed to apply a $650 repair with a flashlight and 20 minutes in the attic. The brown stain on your ceiling has a source. That source is uphill from the stain in your attic, measurable, locatable, and fixable for $0 to $15. The roofer who quotes $800 without performing the attic inspection first is applying a repair to a location they selected by looking at the wrong side of your ceiling. Get a flashlight. Go into the attic. Follow the stain uphill. Subscribe and share this with every homeowner who has a ceiling stain and has been quoted a repair without the contractor first going into the attic. Every share puts a free diagnostic in the hands of someone the roofing industry was counting on never looking from the right direction. Comment with your stain shape and size. Round with dark center, elongated with a tail. That shape is the water's travel direction, and I can tell you which way to follow it. The next vault opens soon, and what is buried inside goes even